Most people don't regret moving to Tucson right away. In my experience, if regret shows up, it usually shows up a year later, sometimes a little longer. Not because the city changed, but because certain realities start to feel different once the newness wears off. And over the years, I've noticed that most of those regrets weren't random. They were things that could have been seen ahead of time. I want to be clear about something before we go any further. This isn't a video about whether Tucson is good or bad. Most people who actually move here like the city. The friction usually comes from mismatch. Not bad decisions, but incomplete ones. People make a move based on what feels right in the moment without fully understanding what day-to-day life will actually feel like later. And those are the decisions that tend to be expensive to unwind. One of the first patterns I've noticed over the years, especially with retirees, is underestimating how social rhythm can feel here. In the winter, Tucson is alive. Snowbirds are here, neighbors are outside, restaurants are busy. There's always something going on. But from what I've seen, the summer shows you the real pace of the city. In places like Green Valley, in July, entire streets can feel quiet. In some 55 plus communities, the social calendar slows down a lot once the heat settles in. Even in Oro Valley, you'll notice fewer gatherings when the temperature stays over 100 degrees. For some people, that feels peaceful. For others, that can feel isolating. And the friction usually shows up when someone moves here thinking, I'll make friends easily, and then realizes connection takes more intention than they expected. People can also underestimate how distance from family feels long term. On paper, it sounds manageable. Flights aren't that long, travel is possible, visits seem easy to plan. And a lot of people do travel a lot the first year. But over time, what changes isn't the distance, it's the energy. Travel takes more effort than expected, schedules get harder to line up. Trips don't happen as often as you imagine they would, and suddenly the question isn't, can we go? It becomes, is it worth the effort this time? That's when proximity stops being emotional and becomes practical. The next one is subtle, but I see it a lot. People fall in love with Tucson in the winter. There's blue skies, outdoor patios, mountains at sunset. And it's easy to picture life here feeling like that all the time. But from what I've seen, some decisions get made based on that version of the city and not the full year. Someone buys a home in the foothills with incredible west-facing views and later realizes how much afternoon sun matters in July. Or they choose an older home with character without thinking about cooling efficiency. Or they pick a large property further out and don't realize how different the drive feels in the summer. Winter sells emotion. Summer tests decisions. What regret usually looks like isn't dramatic, it's quiet. It's sitting in your living room in August thinking, we like the house, but I'm not sure this fits the way we thought it would. It's noticing the neighborhood feels emptier than you expected, or realizing certain things take more planning than they used to, or seeing that visits with family happen less often than you imagined. From what I've seen, that feeling builds slowly, and by the time it's clear, moving again is a bigger decision than what people expect. When I talk to people who are considering Tucson, especially for retirement, there are a few things I usually encourage them to think through ahead of time. Not to talk them out of it, but to make sure the move actually fits. First is climate fit. Not just do I like sunshine, but can I structure my daily life around extreme heat for part of the year without feeling frustrated? Second is proximity fit. How often do you realistically want to see the people who matter most to you? And what does that distance actually look like over time? Third is social fit. Are you choosing a neighborhood that supports the kind of lifestyle you want, or just one that looks good in the moment? Over the years, most regret I've seen comes from skipping one of those. Tucson usually doesn't punish you right away, but it does tend to punish assumptions. And to be clear, this doesn't mean Tucson is the wrong move. For a lot of people, it ends up being one of the best decisions they've made. But from what I've seen, the people who do best here were deliberate. They didn't just fall in love with the weather. They made sure the structure of their life actually worked here. The thing most people don't think about until after they arrive is what living here looks like financially, not just the purchase price, but how the climate, the neighborhood, and the structure of the home affect what you spend every single month. That's worth understanding before you commit. In my experience, most regret here isn't about the house. It was about the assumptions behind the move. Clarity costs nothing. Moving twice usually costs more than people expect. Thanks for watching.